All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week we are continuing our look at Genesis. So we'll be looking this week at Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, all the way through chapter 3, verse 21. We'll be looking at the creation and the fall of man. The creation and the fall of man. And so this week's portion is actually called These Are the Generations. These are the generations. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and read through the rest of the second chapter. We'll go ahead and read Genesis Bereshit chapter 2 verse 4 down through the end, and we'll see what we have to talk about here. Let me grab my cursor here. Hold on a second. Hold on one second here. Let me get this. Together. Something happened with my screen. Okay, so let us begin. Let me put this over here so everybody can see it here. Put this over here. Oh, wait a second. I gotta share it actually. There we go. Alright, let's begin reading here at verse 2. Chapter 2, verse 4.
It says, "These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that." Oh, wait one second. Okay, sorry, I was in a different. These are the births of the heavens and the earth, when they were created, in the day that Yahweh Elohim made earth and heavens. Now no shrub of the field was yet on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up, for Yahweh Elohim had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up from the earth and watered the entire surface of the ground. And Yahweh Elohim formed the man out of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils breath of life, and the man became a living being. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden in Eden to the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground Yahweh Elohim made every tree grow that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, with the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. From there it divided and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one surrounding the entire land. Of Hawilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium is there, and the Shoham stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. Gihon. It is the one surrounding the entire land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. It is the one which goes toward the east of Asher. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, Eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die. And Yahweh Elohim said, It is not good for the man to be alone. I am going to make a helper for him, as his counterpart. And from the ground Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every birds of the heavens, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living being, that was its name. So the man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for the man there was not found a helper for him as his counterpart. So Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall on the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh in its place. And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from the man, he made into a woman. And he brought her to the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one is called woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and yet they were not ashamed.
Okay. All right, very good. So, let's go back up here and look. Start back at the beginning. It's interesting when we look at, reading Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, many people say that there's two creation stories, two separate creation stories. One in chapter 1 and another different separate story in chapter 2. But we're able to, based on the entirety of the Torah and the way in which it is written, we're able to understand certain things within the scriptures. And so when we think about this, the way that this begins here, where it says these are the generations, or Elah Toldot, these are the generations. This is helping us to understand, give us more insight, kind of break down something that was already introduced to us. All right. When we look throughout the scriptures, well, throughout Torah at least, this phrase, these, as it says here in the scriptures, these are the births, but these are the generations. We see this exactly like this 11 times. 11 times we see this in the scripture, and each time it's kind of a retelling of, as I said, information that we already had. And so let's look. I want to look at a few of these here, just so we can see, what the scripture helps us to understand, so that we can, just kind of not think about this in a way that many people do. So let's go over and let's look over in, let's go to Genesis 6 and 9.
Genesis 6 and 9. It says, "This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim. And Noah brought forth 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth and saw that it was corrupt."
Hold on. Okay, just finish that verse.
And saw that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth.
Okay, so here we see this here. This is the genealogy. But what that says is exactly what we see over in Genesis 2 and 4. Ela, Todot. These are the generations. And so here we see where it's kind of giving you a brief summary of Noah, and also his offspring. And so if we jump over to 10 and 1, read that right there.
10 and 1 says, "And this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the sons were born to them after the flood."
Yeah, and so then it goes down in verse 2 to talk about the sons of Japheth, and then his sons, and the sons of Ham, and his sons, and the sons of Shem, all the way down, and his sons. And so when we look at this, it's kind of a, it gives you more information about a thing. And so we see this again. We see this in regards to Abraham in Genesis chapter 11. We see it in regard to Ishmael in Genesis chapter 5. We see it in 25. Isaac, also in the same chapter. In Genesis chapter 36, we see it in regards to Esau. And then in 37, we see it in regards to Jacob. Each time, it's not as if we're not always just finding out about the person in which that is speaking of, but every time we're getting more information about an individual in terms of his lineage, in terms of his genealogy, right? And so when we go back over to chapter 2, understanding that in chapter 1 it told us that man was created on the sixth day. But over here now in chapter 2, we're going to get more detail into just what happened over there. And so that's what this is. This is not another a separate instance of creation. It's giving you more details about something that you've already heard about earlier. All right, so let's go. Let's keep on going over. Let's look over here. If anyone has any questions? Oh, go ahead.
I just think that sometimes people want to be too deep, but they don't have to be that deep.
Yeah, yeah, and like the first thing was one group of people, and then the second chapter was a whole other group of people. Like people come up with all of these things, but if we're able to understand Scripture kind of in a systematic way, kind of looking at patterns that not that we come up with, but that the Scripture reveals to us, that it gives us.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about the Torah was written by Moses, right? And so the way in which he does certain things, we're able to see, because in this case he does this thing exactly like this 11 times, but he talks about the generations and uses this word toldot in such a way. I'm saying it's exactly these are the generations, Elah toldot, 11 times, but probably 17 times we see this word toldot used in this kind of a way where it's describing for you kind of the makeup of a family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing here the birth, the makeup, the breakdown of the original family.
Mm.
And again, it begins just like it begins all of the other times in Scripture in this way. These are the generations. And so, sometimes, we have to just look at what the Scriptures are plainly giving us. There's plenty deep things embedded in the Torah, but unfortunately, this is not one of them. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to kind of pay some attention to here is the fact that this verse 4 here is our first appearance of the name Yahweh. This is where Yahweh, in this kind of more detailed description of the creation, we see that before it was just Elohim. It was just, that's all we had was Elohim. Elohim created this, and Elohim did that. But over here we see in verse 4 where it says, in the day that Yahweh Elohim made earth and the heavens. It's interesting when you think about this now, because now, before we talk about the name here, it says in the day, right? Yom. So it's another way that the word Yom is being used. We understood Yom to be calendar day, a day that encompassed two parts, both the evening and the morning. when in reality is a day is a conglomeration of 4 parts: the evening and night, and the morning and day. But we also know day as being the hot part of the day, right? The part of the day in which you typically would be out doing work. And then we also know from the first chapter that the Most High created the earth and the heavens. We saw that he did it all in 6 days. But over here it says in the day that he made earth and the heavens. And so this word here is being used kind of in this other way. Just something that, to take note of. That, we have to understand that, we can't think about things in kind of this kind of linear, just flat way, because, the scriptures.
Is that saying in the first day?
Say that again?
Is that the first day? Or is that
What you mean?
in
This?
the day? In the day that you did it. Is that is that saying in the first day is all I'm asking? When it says in the day.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I understand what you mean.
Okay.
I don't know that is giving us that. There's other places. Africa, grab my Bible from in there. There's other places in the scripture where you could look at that phrasing like that and it mean in the first day, because when you think of it's in I can just go to it. It just came from Exodus 19.
This one?
Oh, okay. So it's yes, that one. Okay, so when we look at this here in the 3rd month, in order for this to work out and for the commandments to be given on the 50th day past the 14th or the 15th day of the 1st month, this in the 3rd month has to mean in the 1st of the 3rd month.
First day.
Right. Even though it don't say first right there. And so you could potentially think about Genesis 2 and 4 about like how it says in the beginning, in the day that he created heaven and earth. Maybe you can leave it there. But the thing is that the issue with that is that he's not describing the thing that he made in the first day. He's describing the thing that he actually made in the 6th day. We're able to connect verse 4, everything along with verse 4, because again, with this idea of these are the generations. And so the things that come after this phrase are going to, all kind of be in grouped all together and not disjointed, kind of like we have with the creation week, where we have these separations of days and things.
Oh, okay.
And so,
So you're saying that when it says in the day, it's speaking about that whole week.
I'm saying it's thinking about just a particular time period
Okay.
where we're taking the word yom, where it could mean a part of a day, it could mean a whole day, or it could mean a whole period that in this case is multiple days
Yeah.
all rolled up into one. All in this one word, Yom. So we can't. I'm just saying we can't kind of
Yeah.
pigeonhole this word and keep it in this little thing. Okay, so I wanted to look at some because of the fact that we have this first appearance, the first appearance of the name here. Let's look. Let's take a look at this. There's some things here I wanted to kind of bring up that we see. Let's get our tools together here. If we go down here, if we look, in case you didn't know, when we look at the King James Version, and you see Lord in all caps, that's always going to be Yod Hey Wai. It's always going to be the Tetragrammaton. Sometimes you have God. Sometimes you have G-O-D in all caps. And in those cases, that is where the Tetragrammaton is.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll say little Lord, the little Lord, all capital God. Or that's probably like Adonai Yahweh. Or where it says capital, like it says here, this is Yahweh Elohim. But when we look over here at this, let's see here. Strong's gives us this Yehovah. This is the way in which that it gives us that, and we able actually come to find out that we also we've come to find out that these particular the vowel point configurations that we have over here comes from the way in which Israel at a particular time in history, which I believe goes all the way back to the time of at least at the time of the formation of the Septuagint, that they decided that the name was too holy to speak, and so they actually took the vowel points from Adonai and put those vowel points in to the name. So when you saw the name, you would actually say Adonai. And so we see that in history, at least back to the time of the Septuagint, the creation of the Septuagint. And so just as a point of information. But we want to talk about what we have in terms. Well, I guess we can kind of talk about the pronunciations, because when you think about pronunciations of the name, I just want to say this. Let me just make myself a little bigger here. I just want to say this. If you don't have a working knowledge of biblical Hebrew, you cannot read the text, and you don't know the historical things that go along with Hebrew as it transformed throughout time, you're not allowed to be dogmatic about the pronunciation of the name, because you're just going off basing your conclusions off of what someone said is hearsay. You're saying what somebody told you, and you're believing it because it sounds sound.
Sounds reasonable.
It's a reasonable explanation. But I'm saying that you're not allowed to be dogmatic about that because you've never looked at it yourself or been able to comprehend or understand, the way in which the letters go together and they form with vowel points and all of this. On your own. So I'm saying unless you at least have a working knowledge of the language, you can't be dogmatic as it relates to the pronunciation of the name because you can't go and tell me why, except for things that people used to say. I know coming from as a youth, they would talk about the pronunciation of the Messiah's name, and since he came in the Father's name, then when you said his name, you had to have been saying the Father's name because he came in his Father's name. But that explanation has nothing to do with linguistics. It has nothing to do with the language. It's just like a theological explanation of something. Which, that's not how we understand language, through theology. And this is what people do. You got these people who talk about the name of Yeshua means destruction because of, phonetically.
Yah destruction or something like that.
Because of the Shua, phonetically gives you this word that could be understood to mean destruction. And so they come up with all of these things, but even with phonetics, I can say what something sounds like, but that don't tell me, what the actual makeup of a word is. Like in English, if we was to talk about the word together, that word looks like to get her. But the word together doesn't necessarily have anything to do with those three words independent. But phonetically, so there must be some atonement. Right, it's another one where atonement, inside of it you have at one mint. So you reach at one mint from experiencing atonement. It's not. It don't mean that. So I'm saying,
nice,
just because you have these kind of phonetic connections, don't necessarily mean that has anything to do with the etymology of the word and what it means. And so I'm just saying that we have to be able to look at these things and take all these things into account. Me, myself, I don't take a dogmatic stance on the pronunciation of the name, mostly because from the research that I've done, I'm not able to nail down anything. Because when you look back in Israel and understand that even within Israel, they didn't speak their own language the same way. There was a northern dialect and there was a southern dialect. And they pronounced things differently. And so how are we going to say at this day and time in 2022 that it got to be Yehovah, it got to be Yahuwah, it got to be Yahweh, it got to be well let me just say I am kind of dogmatic about what it isn't. Because there's no historical reference for the Lahashan, the Yasharala pronunciation. I don't know. I don't know where, like, who was the first people to start talking like that. But it was in the 20th century when people started talking like that, is what I'll say. There's no historical context. When you look into the history, you're able to verify these other things, and you're able to verify biblical Hebrew. You're able to verify it in history, separate from European influence. And so the thing that these people want to try to do with the Lashawan HaKadosh, Kadash, what they want to do is make a distinction between what the Europeans have done, quote unquote, and their quote unquote Yiddish, and what real quote unquote is Hebrew is, and it's just not.
It doesn't come from.
It's not scholarly.
It don't come from an etymological perspective.
I don't know what kind of perspective it comes from outside of just wanting to be separate from what they perceive to be created by the Europeans, which that in and of itself is error. And so all that being,
what about people who say there was no W and the W was invented?
Well, it's the same.
16th century, 17th century.
Yeah, it's this. I think it's the same. It's really the same kind of thought process. We want to be so set apart and different from a particular group of people that we come up with all of these reasons to go and throw away things that actually, predate these things. And so the whole notion to me is it's inconceivable to me, how people can, kind of hold on to these different doctrines and things without really going and doing the real research. I got some resources over there that helps me to understand that these different sounds was being made. When we talk about
now they
the
don't
English
want to put
alphabet.
a W in there because it was.
When we talk about the English alphabet, like, we can't use the English alphabet to talk about. Even if we was to do that, to say that the W was created at a certain time, the letter was created to represent a sound that they was making. It's not as if the sound didn't exist before a particular time. The sound already existed. All they did was make a letter to signify the sound that they was already making. That they didn't have kind of formally within the alphabet. It's not to say nobody wasn't making no W sound before a certain time. Like, it doesn't make any sense. All right, let's go back and see what some of these comments are over here. What's this say here? But beloved ones, let not this one matter be hidden from you, that with Yahweh 1 day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day. Oh yes, very good. W may not have been invented, but the sound of I didn't read that. I don't know when that was put up there. But that's exactly what I just was saying. Like the sound was already in existence. It was just, they came up with a letter to signify this particular sound.
Mm-hmm.
You do this when when you speak. Like this is how things are, come into existence. And then, just when you think about even like words in the dictionary, right? We say there are colloquialisms, there's things that we say that have been said for a particular period of time. And then at some point down the line, those things make it into the dictionary. But before they was until they was like codified in the dictionary, they didn't exist. It's the same concept. These sound, especially when we're talking about Hebrew and English, right? The discussion is around Hebrew. We get it confused because we speak English.
Yeah.
But they're making these sounds over here in this other language.
And then we gotta translate.
And
those
then we
sounds.
gotta just bring it over into our situation. Just like when we look at the Greek, at the time of Yeshua's day, there were no letters that corresponded exactly with the pronunciation of the Savior's name.
Yep.
But it don't mean that that those sounds wasn't able to be made.
Mhm.
But as far as being written, they wasn't able to be written this properly because the letters didn't exist. But the sounds, and you can see in the Greek what they try to do in terms of trying to recreate the sounds with the letters that they had. And so we live in a day and time where we have access to all knowledge. If we just would really just do some research about things, it would cause us to throw away a whole bunch of things that we think of as the truth. Go ahead.
I was just when I got a book. We both looked at it on etymology, on looking at the etymology and the building blocks of Hebrew into English, and the fact that with any language, you can really build any amount of symbols to represent what you're saying.
Written representation.
And the way things are spelled is kind of agreed upon spellings. So, for example, I just said the word so, which could be spelled SOE, SOW, SEW.
It looks like all of those things.
Exactly. And so, which one of those is the correct or proper way? Well, we've agreed upon the SO.
Now,
But it wasn't always like that.
I can't read the 1611 Bible. I can't read it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Like
Because it's just the spelling is
yeah.
different.
I don't understand it. It's the same words, but I don't understand it.
There was more letters back then. You know?
I don't get it.
It's just really like when I'm speaking with some
understand
people
it.
sometimes. But I wanted to know another thing real quick. What do you say about the people who say the Spirit revealed it to me, and so that's
I just
what
want
it
to
is.
say, I just want to say that I'm not someone who has a problem with saying the Spirit didn't tell you that. People try to use the Spirit told me this or that as like a trump card. You play, for, people from our culture, you play spades, right? And you have these trump cards, right? Not Donald Trump, but these trump cards that trump everything, right? The big and little joker. We play with the two, the deuces and the aces, right? These things trump the other cards. And so people say, the Spirit told me, and that's their trump card. They throw it on the table, and is supposed to be a thing that causes you to not to be able to rebut what they're saying, because they're saying, well, the Spirit told me this. However, we live in a time where, we have to test the spirits. We have to be able to, we have to test people's prophecies and people's interpretations of things. We don't live in a time when the prophet says what thus says the Most High, and there's not somebody coming behind him and saying, let's view this thing and understand if it lines up with what the Most High has already said. When you sit up here and have these things to say, and we're able to weigh them against the Scripture, we're able to say, no, the Most High didn't tell you that. And so again, when we look at these things now, in some of these cases, talking about these different pronunciations and things, we don't even got to take it to the Scripture. We can take it to the historical record. And the whole historical record helps us to understand that, certain ways or things that are totally new, that nobody was out here doing until like the 80s or something.
Yeah.
These things are totally made up. And for somebody to sit up here and say, well, the Spirit gave me this, well, that is not in agreement with what the historical record shows. And so this it becomes a problem.
Well, even
We could go back, we talk about this whole like how Strong's gives us Yehovah. How Strong's gives us that. We know from a historical standpoint that going all the way back to the creation of the Septuagint, we're able to look in the historical record and understand why we see these vowel points the way they are in the scriptures, in the text that we look at. We know why it's there. We understand why it's there because there's a historical record that helps us to understand where it comes from. We know why they did it. We know why it's there. And so these are things that, people have to, I don't have to contend with it, but these are things that people have to contend with. Is the fact that if what you're saying can't be substantiated from a historical standpoint, then, I don't believe you. I don't believe what you're saying. You made it up. And
Well,
especially if a person don't even really know the language.
I'm saying that most people nowadays are finding things out on YouTube, and so it's really
Which is a
difficult.
terrible way to find things out, because somebody could be sitting there and listening to what I'm saying. Until you go back and research what's being said, you could do the lazy thing and just believe everything that someone says. But it's like rolling the dice. Sometimes a person could be right, but sometimes a person could be terribly wrong. But you won't never know, because you're taking it as gospel truth just because you heard it on YouTube. Which is, this is not how we research things. This is not how we get to the bottom of things. We have to go back and look at things. Like how I want to do here with, when we look at here, hold on, let's look at some of these comments here. This is really understanding what creation is. It exists and existed before it was written. Yeah, it's the same concept. These there was a time when people wasn't writing things at all. But does that mean when we go back in time in history before there was a written language, Does that mean nobody said anything?
On the thing about your submission.
Does that mean that nobody talked until the time that we find written things? Like, that don't make any sense. We spoke. We spoke.
Yeah.
And then at some point we came up with a way to convey what it is that we're speaking with letters and words and things like that.
Baby don't learn how to write before he talk.
No. These babies, Ari speaks eloquently.
She does.
But she writes like a 6-year-old.
Well, she writes better than the older kid. But look at this. Show them.
What is that?
That's Moshe's thing. His music.
Oh. Oh, okay. Let's look at this. This is you can't. Oh, yes, you can see it. This up here. This up here is a written representation
Of the black keys.
of the black keys on a piano from the far right edge of a piano moving. I mean, from the far left edge of the piano moving right.
And then that's Twinkle at the bottom.
What?
The bread and the peanut butter and the jelly. That's how much of that.
Oh, that's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. A written representation of something that already existed. Put it in a way for it to be understood by someone who don't know anything about it.
5 years old.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing over here. Even in natural birth, the life exists before it's physically written or documented. The dictionary only adds to what already exists. Yes, very good. Okay, so let's look at this a little bit more, because I wanted to. When we look at the name, let's go back over here. And there's some things that are within it that help us even when we're looking at what happens over here. Let's go back over here and see here. Now these historians, these linguistical geniuses, these linguistic scholars, who can understand the language far better than you or I, are able to make certain connections, and we're able to accept it because they're, if somebody who is a carpenter comes up to me and starts talking to me about, making walls or, hanging drywall and all of these things, I don't have any right to sit up here and try to talk against what a person in his expertise is saying, because I don't know anything about it. It's not my area of expertise. That's his area. And so when we look at these people who literally come up with these lexicons, they actually have this working knowledge of letters. And so one of the things that they suppose from their education and knowledge of the language is that there's a connection between these letters, this collection of letters here, which give you the what is being understood to mean the self-existent one, Yahweh, the self-existent one. But they say that. Let me just read this here from Jusinius, from his lexicon in the Wait, do I have that here? I don't have this on here. All right, let me just read it here. It says that some, including the Samaritans, suppose that Yahweh was. They say that Yahweh was anciently the true pronunciation, and that an additional ground for the opinion in the abbreviated forms of Yahoo or Yahoo and Yah that existed in the names of people like his, he, Yahoo. They make a argument that, you know, for that particular pronunciation, based on the way that they're able to see that there was these names who were these people who were followers of the Most High, and they were putting the Most High's name in their names, and that's the way in which they were saying it. But not only that, though, we see over here also a connection is made between Yahweh, and when we look at here, let's look at this over here, because I think these people, the GOCC people, I think take it too far, but they're not all the way. They're not all the way out in left field. When we look at verse 14, read verse 14 right there.
And Elohim said to Moshe, I am that which I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you.
Okay, very good. And so I'm saying that I'm saying they're not in left field, because when the Most High is explaining to Moshe what his name is, it's almost as if he's giving him a definition and his name kind of back to back. But when he gets to this Aya, right? This Aya, which means to exist or to be or to become. There's a connection between that word, and also here, let me type it up in the thing here. Hold on one second. There's a connection between Aya and Hava. Hold on. Let me figure out how to get it up in here real quick. Oh, it's down here. H. Okay. Which means to breathe. If you breathe, you're alive. So we're talking about the Most High who exists. He's the self-existent one. There's a connection between this word that means to breathe, which can be understood as existing, which can also be connected to the self-existing one. If we look at this, look at this in the ancient. Oh, hold on, I gotta minimize this in order to do it. My cursor's messing up. All right, this is the last thing before I keep on going here because we got a lot to deal with here. Still got this up from the last time. Okay, so if we looked at the name, oh wait a second.
I have a regular whiteboard again.
Huh?
Just go grab that whiteboard. I have a regular whiteboard again.
Oh, the little whiteboard?
I have a regular one. You can start on there, but you didn't grab it. It's upstairs.
All right, let's see here if we can do this. So we have a yod.
Make that thicker.
Don't get much thicker, do it.
It's okay. It looks okay.
Yod. Okay. Vav. Okay. Ancient. Yod. Okay.
Oh, here it goes. There.
Huh? I might as well just finish off here. I'll use it later. I will use it. Because I gotta do something else. Get it unwrapped for me. Alright, so we looked at this in the ancient. The thought that it gives us is the hand or the arm in the hand that gives us breath and adds to breath. Or causes things to be, the Creator, who is the Most High. And when we see that He breathes the breath of life into man to give him breath, He's literally adding breath to the man. Mm-hmm. And so when we see this name that's given to us, that from a linguistic standpoint, that's able to be connected back to breath, it's interesting that when we think about the Most High, who is a spirit, we talk about ruach actually being wind or breath. And so when we think about who He is, it's interesting that we're able to see that in these pictures that kind of help us to understand who the Most High is and His name. Mm-hmm. But let's keep on going. We don't want to sit on this too long. If I can get my cursor here to... I don't know why it's moving like this. I got the thing plugged into the...
You need a mouse.
Huh?
You want a mouse?
It seems like I need one. I don't know what's going on.
No, this one. Figure out that.
No, I don't have any more plugs for it to go into. I can't get this Eastward back. All right, hold on one second. I'm having some difficulties here. Moving back and forth. All right, let's go back over to Genesis chapter 2. All right, so let's look over here at what it is that the Most High is giving us when he's dealing with these generations. Talking about the day that Yahweh Elohim made the earth and the heavens. We talked about the word that's translated as made, and understand that word to be squeezing something into shape. Squeezing something into shape. We see here both. We see these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, where they were barad, where they when they were called into existence from nothing, and also the forming of those things that were called into existence when they were made, right? And so, as we go down, we see that we talked about last week also the fact that one of the key components of the creation story was the institution of order from chaos. And the fact that he wanted for the Most High, the Most High wanted for man to be able to maintain the order that was created. We see that same thing again mentioned in verse 5 when it talks about now no shrub of the field was yet on the earth, no plant. And Elohim sent the rain in the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. Right? So already, even at the very beginning of things, it's talking about the fact that we have this creation of earth. We have this creation of things that are in the earth. And it says, and there was no man to till the ground. So before man was even created, he had a job. Before the man even was brought forth into this place, there was a job waiting for him to till the ground, to cultivate the earth, to keep the things in their proper balance. He had a job before he came. So that helps us to even understand the purpose, man's purpose. Man was created to fulfill a particular purpose, which was to till the ground, which was to cultivate the earth. Before he even got here.
That's crazy. He had a job before he was made.
He had a job before he was even born.
He was seen to a job.
He was made for the job.
He was made for the job. Let's look at this, because this is very important
funny,
to
man.
understanding. I don't know how we're going to even get to the third chapter. I don't even know. Because there's so many things to deal with over here. Especially this idea that there was this earth that was created and there wasn't a man to till it because it needed to be tilled, apparently. Some versions say cultivate. We'll look at that word, but let's look at this one here. Till is abad. To work, to serve, to till. Enslave, keep, bondage, bondman, service, dress, execute, husbandman. Husbandman has, when you think about the word husbandman, it's about, being a gardener, right? A vine dresser. Okay. Let's look at. Do I have on here? Oh, it's right here. So let's drop down. Let's read this here. A verb, abad, a verb meaning to work, to serve. This labor may be focused on things other people, or on Elohim. When it's in reference to things, the item is usually expressed to till the ground, work the garden, dress the vineyard, so on and so forth. But if we go down, let's see, when the focus of the labor is to the master, towards the Most High, it is in a religious service to worship Him. Okay, so we could either work for ourselves in terms of working the ground, tilling the ground, working the earth, work for individuals. But when we work for the Most High, when we work a service to Him, it's also this word abide. Let's look at Exodus 3 and 14. No, it's not 3 and 14. It's 3 and 12.
And he said, because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you, when you have brought the people out of Mizraim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain.
When the Most High sends Moshe to Pharaoh
What?
to bring the people out of Egypt, the whole point of it was to bring his people over to this mountain so that we was able to abad Elohim, so that we could serve Elohim, so that we could do the work dedicated to the Most High. And so he brought the Most High is bringing Israel out of Egypt to fulfill our purpose in life. The whole reason why we was created, so that we're able to serve Elohim, to work for Elohim. Just like when we was just talking about earlier, before we even got started over here today, thinking about the Shabbat. A key component to the Shabbat is a cessation of our work that we're doing. But there's a work that we do that don't stop on Shabbat. In fact, it's multiplied, it's increased, and that is our service to the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally fulfilling the whole reason why we was even made in the first place. When we work for the Most High, service towards Him, abad Him, serving Him. And so again, it's interesting that we see that over here in Genesis chapter 2, because as we've seen, again, there's this work that was created for the man, and he didn't even get there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that just helps us to understand our purpose. If you are living a life and you are not serving the Most High, you're not fulfilling your purpose in life. You can say, well, I'm a man, I'm supposed to go out here and work. I'm fulfilling my purpose as a man. Well, if you're only doing half of your job, then it's not good enough. If I go sit up here and go to work and do half of the things that I'm supposed to do, they getting rid of me. They're going to bring us somebody who's going to do the whole thing that he's supposed to do. Like you go, your purpose, your job is to do a particular thing. If I do 50% of it, I'm not doing my job. So yeah, as a man, you're supposed to be working. You're supposed to be out here tilling the ground. But the other part is service unto the Most High. And if you never get to that place, then you've never got to functionality in your situation. You never got to the place that was created for you to be doing before you even was, before Adam even was. The Most High, he got all this work together for you to do, and you ain't even get started yet. You ain't even get made yet. But again, it just speaks to our purpose. Okay? All right, so that's verse 5. And so, let's keep on going. Let's drop down to read for us again verse 7.
Yahweh Elohim formed the man out of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils breath of lives, and the man became a living being.
Okay, very good. So we see again that the Most High is squeezing the man into shape out of the dust of the ground. He takes the earth, the dust of the ground, the earth, and forms man. You know, that's why we're able to look at our us as humans from a molecular standpoint, and there's things that's in us. Those same things is in the dirt. When we eat food that grows up out of the dirt, there's things that exist in that food that comes out of the dirt that we need inside of us because it belongs there, because we came from that. All right, we got all of this synthetic stuff that we put inside of us that don't belong there because it didn't come from the dirt. It didn't come from the earth. It's the stuff that was made in the lab somewhere.
And the stuff that comes from the earth is full of life. And the
It's-
stuff that don't come from the dirt is dead already.
It's already dead. It never, and it don't belong there. It's like when we, the fact that we come from the earth, and there's things that's in us, just innately, just in us, and there's stuff that's in the earth because we came from there. And there's parts of us that we need these things to be replenished inside of us. Because like we're one with that thing. It's interesting that part of the task of the original man was really to commune with the place that he came from, the earth.
Yeah.
Like part of his existence.
It's necessary.
It is for him to commune. I'm using that word on purpose, to commune with the place that he came from, which was the ground. But again, we look at a little bit the name of the Most High, which we're able to connect back with breath. And then we see that the Most High breathes then into the nostrils of the man who created from the dust and breathes into him life, where he becomes alive. He becomes a living Nefesh, a living soul. Let's look at this here. Nefesh. Properly breathing. It's interesting that this word nefesh, in its essence, connects us back to our Creator, who is in fact breathing. He is the manifestation of breath. He's the self-breathing one. He's the self-existing one, the one that exists in and of itself. And then he gives us this thing that causes us to then be alive and exist and be and breathe. Right? So again, that's nefesh, a breathing creature that is an animal. Vitality. Something that we think about with nefesh a lot is these appetites. Because we as human beings, we kind of, it's interesting, as human beings that come from the earth, inside of us are these appetites that draw us to things that are in the earth. And then, because of our training or mistraining, we seek after certain things that give us a false kind of a false positive in our minds for the thing that we're searching. Right? Say we're searching out for some vitamin, for some riboflavin. I always like saying riboflavin. Say inside of us we're searching for riboflavin. Right? But say for instance, I don't know, maybe inside of jujubes is this thing that gives you a false riboflavin inside of you, right? But it's this, this is a created thing. So you appeased a natural desire inside of you with something that gives you a temporary satisfaction, but it's not the real thing. I just totally made that analogy up, but you get, what I'm saying over here. We seek after things because we have a real desire for something inside of us. And then we temporarily pacify the desire with these wrong things. But it's all based off of these appetites that we have inside of us, that actually make us who we are. Because again, your purpose is in fact to commune with the ground. Because you came from the ground. But again, it says over here that he made us this living soul, this breathing, this vitalized creature, right? This nefesh.
What's interesting is like, how long could you live? Well, I'm sure it goes from person to person, but say for instance you fast. How long could you live without food and water?
Without food and water?
Yeah.
Without nothing?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, I guess, I think the reason that you would last longer would be connected to what you already have inside of you. I would say. And as soon as those internal storehouses deplete,
then you start withering away.
Yeah.
I would say because what Yeshua, 40 days, 40 nights. That's what he did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty spectacular. But what's one thing you can't fast from? Breathing. How long could you go without breathing?
Me personally, about a minute. I used to be able to hold my breath pretty long, as far as breath holding goes. If you was like David Blaine, you could train yourself to be able to breathe. Stop breathing for like 5 minutes.
Right.
But still, in the scope of things, 5 minutes
That's a long
It's
time.
nothing.
It's
compared to
nothing.
your life, right?
right? In the scope of things, right?
Is what is less than your food and water storehouse.
Yeah, it's a more significant thing, that breath.
Yeah.
We know that the Most High, he did. It's interesting when we look at these things, and we'll see this more as we continue. But it's interesting that we have these physical connections, these real physical connections that essentially are helping us to understand spiritual things. Like, yes, we're human beings and we need oxygen to live. But the thing that causes you to be a living soul, a nephesh, isn't oxygen. It's that spirit that's inside of you. Okay? And so, even though, there's a connection between breath and spirit, the thing that causes you to actually be alive is that spirit inside of you. That's the thing that causes you to be this living soul. But the parallels, one thing helps you to understand the other. Because we understand that, the Most High is a spirit. But again, spirit, gives us the thought of breath. And the Most High is a spirit. And then talks about the Most High giving you the breath of life. And as we're just sitting here talking about the fact that, you can stop doing a whole bunch of things. But you can't stop breathing. I mean, you could, but then that's when you die.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You can pause. You can pause from breathing, but you can't stop from breathing. Right? Because that's how your body works. And so thinking about that from a spiritual standpoint, we can't stop taking in of the Most High. Because he's the thing that keeps us going. When we think about what breath does inside of you. We function by blood pumping through our body. But guess what? Oxygen goes into our lungs. The lungs do something with the oxygen and put that oxygen into the blood, and the blood carries the oxygen throughout your body. So when people get bad circulation, have to get their feet cut off, it's because there ain't no oxygen getting to their feet anymore. Through the blood, but it's what's in the blood. The blood is a carrier. The life is in the blood, the Bible says. Yeah. The life's in the blood. It's not the blood, but it's in it though. Because it's the carrier of that important thing, this oxygen that's doing more than just making your lungs expand and contract. It's what is going on, that oxygen transforming or whatever it does, getting into your blood and going throughout your circulation. Throughout your body. There's a man in the news not long ago who tried a 40-day fast like Yeshua and died.
He ain't on this level, man.
He wasn't ready.
That.
He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. I
Yeah.
know. He should have just,
Worked his way up to
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
That's what happened, right? He died. All right, let's keep on going here. Let's look at some more here. So we see over here, verse 7. Okay, so let's drop down. Okay, we see over here, he creates the man. We talk about the let's read this. This is something I want to bring up. Let's read 8 and 9 again.
And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden in Eden to the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground Yahweh Elohim made every tree grow from that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, with a tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Okay, it's interesting that we have again the talk of the garden, things that were made, the grass and the trees and the seed-bearing things and all these things. If we remember, let's go back and look at this, because it was kind of brought up last week, but we didn't really talk much about, or we didn't talk at all. Read verse Genesis 1:10 and 12, 10 through 12.
And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the collection of the waters he called seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the plant that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it came to be so. And the earth brought forth grass, the plant that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good.
Okay, in this day, right, in this third day here, the Most High creates he uncovers the land and says that was good. And then he causes things to grow on the land, and he says that was good. You get two toves, two goods on the third day. The day that the grass and the land and all these things are put together, the Most High says is good 2 times. And it's interesting that when we go back over to the next chapter, when it begins to tell us about this place that the Most High created for the man, which has this tree of life in the midst of it, and also this tree of knowledge of good and evil, that there's kind of an extra goodness associated with this day. And a thought is the fact that there's great significance to the tree of life. There's great significance with the tree of life. And so when we ask the question, why is there 2 goods in Genesis chapter 1 in relation to the land and the things that grow on the land, one thing that you can say is the fact that in that day we have the creation of the tree of life. Let's look over at this real quick. Let's go over to John. What's verse 6 say?
Yeshua said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Yeshua says, among other things, that he is life. He is life. When we think about what happens in Genesis, we have to think about this word life and the antithesis of it, death. But just for us to think about and have in the backs of our minds here is the fact that Yeshua here is saying that he himself is life. But let's look over here in Revelation 2. Revelation 2, verse 7.
He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the assemblies. To him who overcomes, I shall give to eat from the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of Elohim.
When we think about the end, when we think about making it, when we think about being an overcomer and overcome all of the things that there is to overcome in this existence that we're in, the payoff is to eat from the tree of life, which is in the midst of paradise. The tree of life, unless there's multiple trees of life, this is that same tree of life that's spoken about over there in Bereshit in chapter 2 that was created presumably on the third day, where the Most High said that things that he made was good 2 times. Also, let's look at 22, read verses 1 and 2.
And he showed me a river of water of life, clear as crystal, coming from the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb. In the middle of its streets, and on either side of the river, was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
Over here, now we got this water of life. We got this water of life that's coming from the throne of Elohim and the Lamb. The Lamb being Yeshua. In the midst of his street, on either side of the river, was a tree. So if you got, first of all, let me just say this. If you got a tree, it says on either side of the river was the tree. The river going through the tree then is coming out forth from the tree. If there's on either side of the river was the tree. It didn't say that there's trees on both sides of the river, but on either side of the river was the tree. And so this water of life is flowing out of the tree of life that's coming from the throne of Elohim and the Lamb. Yeshua is the Lamb. Yeshua is life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a connection between Yeshua and the tree of life. There's a connection between life and the Most High. And so when we think about all of these things, and again, this tree of life, this place where this garden is, the place that he created for Adam to be at, it's interesting that again we're able to look back and see why, for whatever reason, we see double toves on the third day. And then when we get into the generations where it's giving us more details, we're able to see whenever he makes this place, place where things are growing, this tree where it's the tree of life, this thing that's good for food, this thing that he placed in close proximity, place man in close proximity of, that we're able to see this now in the beginning and at the end of things over here. And then also there's this tree of knowledge of good and evil, which
Was
What you
that
were talking
good? Was that toad?
about?
Was that made on
He
that
said don't
thing?
eat it. He said don't eat it. I mean, let's
Was that
just.
poison? Is it poisonous berries?
I don't know if it's poison. You know, when we talk about these things,
That little light on that new door.
when we talk about these things again, as we're talking about these things which clearly have a spiritual connection, are we talking about? Are we talking about trees?
I was just about to go to Daniel. One of Daniel's vision talk about man being a tree.
It talks about men as trees,
Yeah.
right? It's talking about men as trees. And so over here, read it. Hold on. Let's pull it up.
It is.
Oh, did you have it?
Let me get it.
It's Daniel 4. And I guess 10. Is it 10? I guess we can start. If we gotta go with it. It says, "Now the visions of my head on my bed were these. I looked and saw a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height great. The tree became great and strong, and its height reached to the heavens, and it was visible to the ends of the earth. Its leaves were lovely, and its fruit plenty, and in it was food for all. The beasts of the field found shade under it, and the birds of the heavens dwelt in its branches, and all flesh was fed from it. In the visions of my head on my bed, I looked and saw a watcher, even a set apart one, coming down from the heavens. He cried aloud and said this, hew down the tree and cut off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts fruit leave from under it and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump of its roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of the heavens, and let its portion be with the beasts of the grass of the earth."
I mean, even when you look at this, and it's talking about this thing that's a tree. We just looked at verses that talk to us about this tree that we're able to eat the leaves and be healed from. Right? And we understand when we look at messianic prophecy that all of the nations come up to worship where Messiah is. Which sounds like this over here with the tree in the midst. We are able to understand the fact that Messiah, who came and lived and walked this earth, who flourished and produced fruit, but was cut down. But the remnants of him still exists. The roots is still there, even though he was cut down.
Right. Yeah.
So we're able to look at this thing over here. We're talking about a tree, and it's giving you this imagery. But is it really talking about a tree? Or is it trying to get you to understand the thing? And so it's the same thing when we think about what we're looking at with this in Bereshit, where it's talking about these trees that he puts in the midst. Was there literal trees? Maybe there was literal trees. But even if we say there was literal trees, there's what it is that the Most High is seeking for us to understand about the trees is the most important thing over here. When we think about we go over to verse 9, where it talks about the tree of life. But we talked about the tree of life, but what about this other tree? You know, I've said, you know, it's on the record it's on the record that I've talked about the idea that there were things in the garden that the Most High didn't put in the garden. I feel like I'm almost ready to backpedal on those thoughts at this point. Because there's something to be understood about what the Most High is setting up over here. And when we get to even when we just think about what's going on here, if he's saying that we have these trees here, we have this tree of life that's here in the midst of the garden, that's good for food. It looks good, it's pleasant for food, and we have this other tree, this tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is there, but that's not the one that you eat. Even if we say that the Most High put both of these trees there, just because there's something there don't mean that you're supposed to have it. And the understanding that we're able to see is that the Most High wants first of all, for there to be boundaries created, for Adam, and understanding that the Most High actually makes the rules. So it's necessary for Adam, who rules this place, and even though he rules the place, he's not the ruler of everything.
Right.
The Most High put Adam in that position to rule, but Adam is ruled by the Most High. And so it's interesting that when we see down the line where we have the entrance of the idea that eating of this particular tree will cause you to be like Elohim, it takes you to this place of can't nobody tell me nothing.
Damn, that's facts.
Right?
Yeah.
You're the ruler. You do whatever it is that you want to do. And in that way, you would in fact be like the Most High. There's nobody to tell the Most High what he's supposed to be doing. But he gonna tell you what you're supposed to be doing. And so as soon as I make this thing where you can't do this, but don't do this. And Adam goes outside of that. He's going outside of the governance of the Most High, and now he is existing inside of his own rulership. He has a particular jurisdiction that he rules. And he rules it though, but he rules it the way that the Most High said for him to rule it, and even the ruler of the jurisdiction has limits to which he's supposed to be participating in. And so we're able to see this only with this prohibition here. If you could just do anything, if you're able to do anything, what is there to show of your obedience and service to the Most High, or to the one who's the ruler of you? There has to be lines for you to be able to say that there's one that creates the lines for me. When we think about what it is to get into transgression, what it is to get into sin, right? It's disobedience from the Most High. It's moving outside of the lines that the Most High has created. When you think about a tree that is the knowledge of good and evil, it don't sound that bad, really. It's not the manifestation of good and evil. It's not the manifestation of evil. It's not the doing of evil. It's having the knowledge of this evil. Not even doing it. But I feel like it's almost like a thing where it don't even really matter what it is outside of the fact that the Most High said this thing ain't for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, when we think about the next chapter, and we think about, biting of the apple,
You did not just say that.
the biting of the fruit,
You crack me up.
the biting of this fruit, the partaking of this information, the partaking of this information is the information the thing that enlightens Adam and Hava, or is it the fact that I'm able to do whatever I want to do?
Yeah.
I feel like it's that. I feel like, wait a second. I can do whatever I want. Nobody could tell me what I can or cannot do. But that's not how the Most High created for us to be. He created boundaries, and he said, exist inside of these boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go outside of it, that in fact is how you are like the Most High. Because nobody can give the Most High boundaries.
And what I want to add too, like pondering on it, it's like that tree, it says it, let's read it, and it says, and out of the ground, Yahweh Elohim made every tree grow that is pleasant. Number one, the tree is pleasant to the sight and good for food, and for consumption, but the tree of life in the midst of the garden. It says, but the tree of life in the midst of the garden. So they both the trees was in there.
Mm-hmm.
But Elohim made every tree grow. So it was multiple trees
Yep.
with the tree of life.
Mhm.
That was good. That was pleasant.
Yeah.
And I feel like when that tree of knowledge was there, or there, when you eat from that, before the tree of knowledge that you eat from, everything's good. What wrong could you do? But when that tree of knowledge come with good and evil, now you can get ideas. I think it opened ideas to man to be like, oh, like you said, now choices has got to be made now. Now you got to make a choice in everything you do, because now you are not eating from all good things now. Now you know about good and evil. Now guess what? Now I got to choose whether I want to do this right thing or wrong thing. You're presented with that, as opposed to always being presented with the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Which is 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 part of the situation. It's part of the thing. This knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because you obviously already have a knowledge of good. Because the Most High is good. Why thou callest me good? None is good but the Most High. They already have the knowledge of good. But do they got the knowledge of evil? Now there is this knowledge of these things that aren't connected to the Most High. The thing that he's keeping you from by just not even thinking about these things. We talked about this at some point some years ago, the fact that, when you think about the youth, the Most High speaks about that next generation coming out of Egypt, and talks about the reason why they're still in existence, because when that transgression happened, with forsaking the going into the land, those young ones didn't have the knowledge of good and evil. These young people don't have the knowledge of, they don't know anything. They don't know anything.
They think they know though. But
They definitely think they know, but they in reality, they don't know anything. Right? They don't know good or evil. Actually, they don't know the difference. Right? And so, when you at the foundation of it, you have the idea of obedience to the Most High. But then once you get into this thing that this line that he's not wanting for the people to cross, it involves these other choices that you have to think about now that you never thought about before. You mean I can go and do this or that? I can do that? Interesting. What would happen if I mean, the Most High don't want for me to do X, Y, Z. But
But why not?
what would really happen if I did?
Yeah.
Well, that's what Moshe said to me. No, Ari. Mom, what would happen if I ate some pork?
Oh my goodness, I was just thinking the same thing.
she asked me that this
I
week.
just asked him.
What would really happen?
What would really happen to me? I was like, well, you'll probably survive. Like I don't think you're gonna pass out and like start convulsing and foaming at the mouth. I don't think that's gonna happen.
My kids were genuinely surprised that I was still alive.
Oh, whenever
Because
you ate the pork.
They're like, what? You're still here?
Yes.
What?
Right. Good.
Kanye West said he only listens to young people. He said old people can't tell him nothing.
Oh wow.
That's what he
crazy.
said?
He said old people need to shut up.
Oh.
Now see, I'm the exact opposite of that. I'm saying young people need to
She's
shut up.
also
Oh,
extreme.
young people, good
That's
luck.
very
The
extreme.
dumbest thing I ever
I
heard
mean,
in my life.
that is pretty bad. That's pretty bad. And so, when you think about, what happens, right? When we sit up here and look at this over here, and verse 16, read 16. Read 15 and 16. Oh, and 17.
Okay, 15, okay. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die.
You shall certainly die. And so there, again, we have this thing that's being described to us from this physical standpoint. When we think about death, we think about not breathing anymore and being dead. And so even when we think about the next chapter, when they eat it and they don't die, but when Hasatan says, if you eat of it, you'll surely die. That death that they speak of is dealing with this spiritual separation from the Most High. Because of, at its essence, at its core, because of your disobedience to the Most High.
Right.
Like, we really have to understand the fact that it don't matter what the thing is, how trivial you might think the thing is or isn't.
Right.
I just was talking to this person the other day, talking to me like I can understand, being a people. I can understand, acknowledging the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as Elohim and Creator. But when you get to all of these other things, wearing these strings hanging off of your clothes and keeping the Sabbath and not working and all of these things, I'm not interested in all of these ritualistic things. I'm just interested in having a connection to the Creator. But the thing about it is that you can't separate the things that pertaineth unto the Most High.
Yeah.
if he because he made a standard. Whether we are able to fully understand why we got to do these physical things, which really are just a representation of spiritual things, why do we still have to do the things? But that's the same thing they said. That's the same thing Hasatan said. Don't worry about this eating that tree that has a representation of this knowledge that the Most High don't want for you to have. Just eat it. You're not going to surely die. You're not going to die. You still going to be here. And then they ate it and they was still there. And they saying, wait a second, I can disobey and not be dead instantly.
Yeah.
But the Most High, even though we may not have a full picture of the why part, we still have to understand that the Most High is calling for us to walk in obedience. And so we can look at this tree of knowledge of good and evil and this tree of life and the ability to be able to partake of the one and the inability to be able to partake of the other as this kind of ritualistic kind of picture that points us towards these things that we're able to do and not do, that the Most High is calling for us to do and not do, even though understanding that he is spirit, and these things that we're doing are physical things. When he sat up here and had for Israel to go and take these animals and cut their throats and spill the blood and cook these things and offer these things up to him, we're doing these physical things. We're doing these physical things, but they have a spiritual significance. And so we have to be able to understand that he's the same to yesterday, today, and forever. There's always these things that we don't have a full handle on the why part of it. But at the foundation of it is that the Most High said do this, and he said don't do that. And that's what he's calling for, and that's what he is expecting of us, his people. And so we see that put forth to Adam in the garden lines. This is Torah this is law to Adam. You have a tree and you can have full access to it. It looks good and it is good. And you have this other tree, don't eat that. Because when you eat it, you're gonna die. And then he don't even say what type of death he's even talking about. Because it's not a physical death. Because he's not gonna just eat it and just
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen. But again, when we talk about the fact that we went over and talked about the fact that Yeshua is life. We talked about the fact that the Most High breathed life into dirt and caused it to be a living soul. We talked about the fact that breath inside of your lungs is something that signifies life. Not that it is the life that the scripture speaks about, but it signifies life. And it signifies the fact that without this life, you're dead, right? But there and being separated from the source brings about death. And disobedience is something that causes a separation from the source. And so we see that the thing that the Most High is implementing here is Torah to Adam, and helping for him to understand that you, yes, are the ruler of this place. I've created this place for you to rule, to subdue it, to maintain it, but I rule you. And so whatever it is that we think of this tree of life and this tree of knowledge and of good and evil, whatever it is that we think that these things are, at the foundation of it is Torah and the Most High saying, follow my law. I rule you. You rule what's under you, and I rule you. In fact, you rule what's under you according to the way that I prescribe for you to do it. And so we see again the Most High setting up order in His creation.
Like you was pulling out the words and talking about how when the earth was created, it was stuff for Adam to do already, and in his creation, it was meant for him to serve.
Mm-hmm.
To serve who? The Most High. Yeah. And what he presenting here is just like he presented Israel in the wilderness, is a choice. A blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Live or die.
Mm-hmm.
Tree of life, continue to live. Do you want to live or die?
Yeah.
And
it's literally the exact same thing, kind of remixed, redone,
yeah,
over and over again. When Joshua says up here and talks to Israel on the other side of the Jordan, he says to them, just like the Most High said before him, choose you this day, life or death. That's what he's saying right over here.
Yeah, literally.
Choose you this day to obey my voice or to disobey it. If you disobey it, you will surely die. In that day, you'll surely die.
Mm.
As soon as you do it, that's what's going to happen. But it's like the Most High, he just keep on doing things this way because, this is who he is. And so, again, when we think about the fact that the Most High don't change, we're in this place where we're, in exile. We're away from the place that he put his name on. But he still operates in the same way. And so, when we think about living a life that's pleasing unto him, the things that pleases him never changed. It's always obedience. It's always the standard that he created. Those things, not our perception of those things, but those things are the things that he likes. Okay, let me see what this person said. It seems like the tree of knowledge of good and evil being pleasant to the eyes. Hold on. Seems like the tree of knowledge of good and evil being pleasant to the eyes and good for food is referenced in Luke 16 and 8, being wise in this world. What's Luke 16 and 8 say?
You don't want this?
It says 8, right? And the master praised the unrighteous manner because he had acted shrewdly, because the sons of this age are more shrewd than their generations than the sons of light.
Oh, the sons of this age, being, I guess, people who are worldly minded. When we think about, again, this idea of being, like the Most High don't say, that's what Hasatan says in the next chapter in terms of which it don't seem like we'll be able to get to. But talking about being like Elohim, it boils down to these choices, as you said. We talk about the fact that we live in this time where there was this big thing about women being independent. Independent, right? I'm an independent woman, right? And so, but when you think about it,
You
the
forget, you gotta add, and I don't need no man to it.
yes, that's implied, but that's the other part that they say, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing is that this idea of independence, it goes back to what the Most High is saying that He don't want. He don't want for man to be independent from Him,
Right. Right.
and that's what's going to happen if there's disobedience. You're going to be cut off from me, from life, if you venture out and say, I don't have to listen to you. I can do whatever I want to do. Because the Most High set boundaries. He set lines. He established fences. And He said, don't cross the fence.
That's heavy.
Don't cross it.
Like you just said, a fence, right? So you wander out the fence, and you go too far. Guess what? You lost. You got lost. And people out here lost.
Lost.
They out of the protection of the Most High because they left the fence.
Yeah. All right, let's keep on going. Because there's so much to talk about in regards to the fall of man. That we're gonna have to talk about that next week. But I wanna deal with the rest of this chapter here. Let's drop down. Read for us again 18 through 22. Here, let me blow this up. Let me go back. First of all, let me go back to Genesis. Hold on, before we read that, let's look at this comment. Wait, why does it seem like that just popped up? Okay, that's what I already looked at. Okay, read 18 and 22.
Yahweh Elohim.
Hold on. Oh, yeah.
Yahweh Elohim said, "It is not good for a man to be alone. I am going to make a helper for him as his counterpart." And from the ground, Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living being, that was its name. So the man gave names to all livestock and to the birds of the heavens and to every beast of the field. But for the man, there was not found a helper for him as his counterpart. So Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall on the man, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place.
Oh, I'm going to read this one too.
And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from the man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man.
Okay, very good. So we see over here this situation that happens with Adam, where he's in this place where the Most High had placed him. He's given this task to subdue the earth, to keep this place that the Most High created. The Most High gives him a place in order, and He says, maintain this order of this place. There's these animals, there's these beasts of the field. Let them come before you. Examine these animals and name them. Give them all names. Because again, you are the ruler of this place. You say what these things are going to be. Right? This whole thing with naming agrees with the role of man in this place, to subdue the place, to rule over this place. This is His place. You rule it the way that the Most High established for you to rule it in. The Most High over you, you over these things. And so as he's doing this, as he's going through these things, he's understanding through the way in which the Most High has created these things, that each one of these animals that's coming forth, they in fact have a counterpart. Each one, they're able to multiply with each other. They're able to cause themselves to increase. They're able to have these counterparts. But Adam, he looking around like, what do I get? What do I have that's like unto me? That is a counterpart to me. And we see over here the Most High says over here to him, it's not good for man to be alone. So I will make you this helper that's suitable for you. This aid, this helper that is a suitable companion for the man. And so this, of course, is referring to the woman. And so when we look over, it's interesting, when we look over in the first chapter, it talks about the fact that in this day, actually what it says is the Most High created man and woman in his image. But when we get over here to male and female, created he them. But when we look over here, the man was created already. The man was given his task to perform already. But the woman wasn't there. Some time had to go by for him to, Adam, to deal with this situation that he had in terms of, naming these animals and coming to the realization that he, in some way, was dissimilar to these beasts of the field. And the fact that he needed something. And so, again, we think about the generations that we look over here of the heavens and the earth as it pertains to man. It's interesting that when we see the creation of man, the Most High, for whatever reason, caused there to be a longing, a desire for something that was absent from his own self. The woman. So it seems as if there is a plan for the woman from the beginning. But I don't know that the execution of the plan was in the beginning. Because there's obviously a period of time when she ain't there. I don't know. Is he created in the morning and names animals all day, and then before the sun goes down he finds out that he is lonely? Or does some time go by? I feel like, logistically speaking, time has to have gone by. I'm not saying that the woman is an afterthought. I'm saying that she was meant to be there from the very beginning.
Or else it
But she wasn't.
Total adults. Generation.
There can't be generations unless he's a hermaphrodite what do they call it?
Well, you know, there's people who believe that he was.
That he had all the parts, like he could just recreate by itself.
I don't believe that.
You know, there's people.
No,
that
but
do
there's
believe
people that do believe it.
I know there is. People that believe that.
But I'm saying that there was a place
I don't believe
and that there was a plan for the woman from the beginning, but she didn't exist from the beginning, and the Most High made it so that the original man got to the place where he longed for the part of him that didn't yet exist.
I mean, if you think about it, you know, let's say you were moving to a new city with your family. You would go to that city first as the man, set up shop, make sure everything was prepared for and safe for your family to come.
Yeah.
So it seemed like Adam was doing a lot of different tasks, preparing the situation for Eve to come in later. So
That's
it's like,
exactly what's happening. That's how I look at the thing. But I'm saying that the Most High created it that way, even down to the part of the man even coming to a realization within his own self that something is missing here. And then the Most High then bringing in this situation his woman. In verse 23, he's saying, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." This thing that we see with Adam, you know, which really is this proclamation of exclamation. He's really excited about this thing that has happened in terms of the bringing about of his counterpart. Because when you think about it, the way that and the way that the Most High has made for us to be, He made us to be this way. He made for man to have certain qualities within himself, and He made for certain qualities to exist inside of a woman. And you know, a man or a woman don't innately possess those qualities. And so when we get back to this idea of this independence, right, that even a thought of it is something that is wicked.
Never existed. Yeah, never.
It's wicked. He has the man here in these moments, in this period of independence, only to realize that he needs somebody to be with him.
He said it wasn't good for man to be alone.
I wasn't told.
No, that's bad,
Yeah.
right? And so, but when we think about this idea in its entirety, understanding that the Most High has set up structure. He set up structure. He set up order, and he established a connection between the Most High and man. And then he sets up the structure of the relationship between the man and the woman. This one who is interesting. It's interesting that, you know, when you hear this idea of this help meet to, you know, the woman, the way that she compliments the man is it's a very important component. A man needs a woman. If a man don't have a woman, he's incomplete. And for these people to sit up here, man or woman, to talk about this idea of not needing. I don't need no man, or even a man talking about the fact that he don't need a woman.
Don't let Paul
It's-
let you talk like
Paul-
this.
I mean, he was given us. He was given a special.
I
he
know,
was given
right?
A special gift,
Yo,
if you want to call it a gift.
that's what you definitely.
If you want
like,
to call it a gift, he was given a special gift. But I'm saying that only to say that the original purpose for man to increase and multiply can only be done with a man and a woman. It can only be done in that way.
well, not the 21st. Back up until 10 years ago.
Well,
Now in the 21st century.
even now, you
No,
need
I'm
you
playing.
need the parts
Exactly.
that come from a man
Right,
and a
right,
woman
exactly.
to
Yeah,
increase.
Yeah.
You can manifest that in a lab, I guess they're doing now. I don't know what they do, but you still need
Right.
the seed and the egg that
Right.
come from a man and a woman.
Right.
Biological males. That's what you're looking for.
Biological.
I don't know what the lingo
Who
what
knows?
what the lingo is. But when we think about the fact that the Most High created man in His image, we're able to see in Genesis chapter 2 that there's part of that image that He was created in that was, until the woman is on the scene, is not there. Because the Most High, who's the self-existent one, is able to exist on his own. He's able to create and multiply on his own. He's able to speak it into existence. And it be. But the man needs this helper. He needs this counterpart. Because the Most High put parts of his own self in the DNA of a man. And he held some of that back and saved it for the woman. Because when you really look at a woman, she thinks about things in a whole other way. And it's just simply on the way that she is as a woman.
Yeah, for real.
It don't have nothing to do with anything else. And it's just it's natural. It's
Yeah.
just natural. She's just naturally that way. She's naturally a nurturer. She naturally is that. She's naturally one that is just oh baby, come here, let me just you're just like this is just part of her makeup that he left out. Like we had to force ourselves to get to that place. Naturally, it's just like, come on, man,
Yeah, you
get up, just stop doing all that.
You see a man doing that, you be like, you look at him kind of funny, like,
Yeah.
for real?
What is that? That's a thing that you're going through just come here. Just come here. Give me a
Yeah, the hardest thing for me is like when I see like babies crying for no reason. It's like, come on,
Me
what's
too.
this about?
Yeah.
What's he
Really,
doing?
like, come on.
What is this?
Whereas a woman,
What's
there's
wrong?
always a reason.
What's wrong? Oh,
always
why
right.
are you? Oh, come here. Let mommy fix it.
Yep. Yep.
But this is the way that we are made, and I just want. Let me see this thing. One little final illustration. This is something that I recently incorporated into my wedding ceremony. Something that's that the Most High shows us through when we look at verse 20. When we look at 23 here. When we look at the end of in the chapters, we see man. The word man is Adam, and the majority of the chapter here. But when we see Genesis 2 and 23. Where it says this one called woman because she came out of man is Ish there. Right? She is Isha who comes out of Ish. Now if we look at my little, let me show you here. If we look at this in the Hebrew, I hope it's not backwards. I can't tell if it looks straight or not. But we have Ish on top. Yod Aleph Shin. Ish on top. And on the bottom, Isha, which is Aleph, Shin, and Hey. Now, when we look at the things that are similar one another, I should have used a different color. We have the Aleph and the Sheen. But what's left out is the Yod and the Hey, right? Which is Yah. And so when we have the Ish and the Isha together, right? When we have then we have the true nature of Yah being manifest through the both of them together. But each one independent of itself can't do it. Right? You can't make Yah just with Ish. And you can't make Yah just with Isha. But when you have Ish and Isha together. So the same thing is true with the idea that the Most High created for man to actually be with his woman. She brings out in him the things that are missing, right? And at the same time, he brings out things in her that are missing too. Right? She got her ways that are good for some situations. But not always. Mm-hmm. We see what happens with people who are missing. Like we have a whole generations of people that come from not having the male influence as well as the female influence together. Right. Like when you don't have that balance, you know, there's things that you know, the whole situation gets messed up.
You off balance. You out of balance. You out
of balance. You're out of the way that the Most High created for things to be. Mm-hmm. So unless you get that somehow that male influence, you know, you're heavily on that feminine side.
Yep.
Right, and the other side is true. You know, some situations where you know, the woman is gone, and all you have is the male thing, and you have these overly, dare I say, overly masculine.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a balance is something that the Most High wanted for Adam to understand, that there needed to be a balance. Even in the animals, there was a balance that he was lacking, that he was able to be able to look at and understand and come to that understanding as a result of looking into nature. Looking into nature was able to help him understand that he needed a counterpart.
Yeah.
Now we got these people that walk around here and want to go outside of nature. Nature itself helps us understand that you have a male and a female. You have a biological male and a biological female. And in order for life to exist, like if we sit up here and go along with this way that these people are just going to die off.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
People die off. If everybody gets to the mind frame is that I want to be what the other one is,
Well,
there's an end to that.
Yeah.
Well, in America, they have no clue of what a male and female is.
It's in question, yeah. It's in question.
They literally can't define it.
It's so easy. It's so easy. It's biological. It's a biological thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a biological thing. It comes down to it. Adam proves it right here.
Mm-hmm.
He looks and he's able to understand in biology that these animals have something that I long for and desire to have.
Yeah.
And the Most High agrees. It's not good for you to be alone.
Right.
You need a counterpart, someone to help you.
It's and that word you just said, counterpart, like a counterbalance. Like
Yeah.
it's just I always, for some reason, I think of men and women, the yin and the yang, that the Chinese came. I think the Chinese came up with the yin and the yang, but the circle and they balance each other out. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's true.
Right, because she has within her parts that I don't got, and I got within me parts that she don't got.
Mhm.
And together these things are balanced.
Yeah.
That's a question I just texted it to you.
You text us?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm curious. Let's see here.
It's not on the chat. I tried to
Oh.
put it on there, but it was too many letters.
Okay, the relationship between Adam and Hava pre-fall. Like have you hear people talking about how patriarchy is part of the fall, since in the curse there is the part about her desire being contrary to her husband and him ruling over her. Well, I'm definitely going to talk more about the things that relates to the fall in the next chapter, but just as a prelude, the order of things don't have nothing to do with the fall. The order of man is not over woman because of sin, and so a redeemed woman don't go back to being equal, so-called equal with a man. Because when we think about the fall, you know, if you're a redeemed woman, is there pain in labor?
Yes.
You mask the pain with drugs, but it's still there. You just can't feel it. And so a redeemed woman, if she's back to her original state, quote unquote, what's up with that? The patriarchy, she was created not to be a man. She was created to help a man. And so even though we look at the word for help me, and we can see the idea of protector in it, the woman's not the protector of a man.
Yeah.
She may be a protector of things, but she's not protector of the man per se. You know, when if I go out You know, my wife, she's a protector of this place. If I'm out, if I'm not here, it's on her then now to help me in that way. But when I'm here, though, she's not the protector of me. Something going on, I'm not jumping back behind her. I got to jump out in the front.
Yeah.
Right? And so even though we can find the word that has to do with protection in that word that's translated as help or aid, that's not what she is. She is the counterpart. She is the helper to what the man is doing.
She protects your interests.
That's what she does. And so the idea of even when we get to the place of the man, the Most High gives the beasts to Adam and says, name them. That is a form of understanding leadership
Yeah.
and his rule over creation. And the Most High names Adam, and then Adam names his woman. And so the order is set up from creation. It don't have nothing to do with the fall. And so when people try to, do that and take away, like, we have to understand the order of things. And again, we'll talk more about this because there's so much more to be said about it that's expressed in the third chapter that we'll deal with. But just as a precursor to the next chapter, no is the answer. No. Patriarchy starts in Genesis chapter 2. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that Yah calls himself the Ezer, the helper of Israel. So he's creating, just like what you said before about about how man, the difference between man and Elohim is that Elohim exists on his own, creates on his own. He helps his own self. He's his own helper. So, but the man needed a helper.
Yeah. And so, that's it's interesting when we really look into this. But again, there's so much to be said about it that we'll deal with in the following chapter. We're going to be done with here, but we want to end with the kind of cliffhanger that we see over here with the last verse over here, and just something to add to kind of what we're dealing with over here when we read 25 there for us.
It says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, yet they were not ashamed.
Okay, so we think about the idea that these two that have come together, the Most High has taken the bone of Adam, formed it into this beautiful woman, and gave it back to him. Right? He's taken from the man, formed it into this woman, and then gave it back to him. And he's just so excited about this bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. He's so excited that this part of him that was within him is then now presented back to him in this wonderful gift that is Hava, right? And so we see that the two of them, and we'll talk more about this, are both to each other exposed to one another, all exposed, everything exposed to one another, and there's no shame. There's no shame because they're covered by the Most High. And they don't have this outside knowledge in the inner workings of their minds, right? They don't have this outside influence that brings them into a place of shame for anything, right? They have so in spite of the fact that they're physically naked, what we need to understand is that is in regards to one another. They're exposed to one another and to the Most High, but there's nothing that exists that causes shame between them, because of the fact that again, we'll talk more about this covering later, but they don't have a physical covering, but there's a spiritual covering. And so therefore the fact that they're physically exposed to one another and to the Most High for that matter, there's no shame that is connected to it, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no guilt, because they're working in the confines of the Torah that has been given to them, as they know it. Which to this point, as far as we know, is you can have this tree and don't have that one. Take care of this place that I've put you in, and keep everything in place the way I gave it to you. Right? That's the Torah that we know of that they had. And so they're in right standing, as it were, with each other and with the Most High, because they have this connection, the Most High over the man and the man over the woman up to this point. And again, there's more to be said about it, but we're going to save that actually for the next chapter, as it pertains to the fall and whatnot. All right, so that being said, does anybody have any last minute questions, comments before we adjourn? Okay, so with that being said, we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Y'all willing, we will be back on next Shabbat to deal with the continuation of the beginnings of man. All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.